is how you know if you're going through a spiritual awakening and your entire life is about to change. Now, a spiritual awakening is you coming to the realization that you are not this body. You are the soul inside the body. Most humans stay unconscious of that their entire life, but most of y'all have a natural spiritual awakening. If you're going through a spiritual awakening, life just starts to feel different. You start to feel detached from reality. Life been the same your entire life, and now all of a sudden, recently, everything just feels different. Because your awareness level is starting to raise and you're starting to see how life wasn't what you think it was this whole time. They call this derealization and act like it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing at all. Number two, you've been questioning your beliefs. Ever since you was a kid, you was taught to learn about God or whatever you believe in. All that information came from another human. Your spiritual awakening allows you to detach from all these beliefs and connect back with your intuition. But your brain, your ego, doesn't want you to accept the fact that you're questioning your beliefs, so you push it off to a side. A lot of y'all grew up Christian and don't want to go to hell, but that's a part of the programming. Number three, you've been seeing a lot of angel numbers, a lot of coincidences and synchronicities been happening to you. Life is supposed to be synchronized. We are supposed to be on a divine pattern. But when you're not connected with your soul, when you're not connected with your higher self, it's like you're just all human. So life is like a free-for-all. So when you start seeing these numbers and synchronicities start to happen, that's a sign that you're getting in tune with your higher self. Another thing, you've been feeling real alone lately. And that's perfectly fine. When you're having a spiritual awakening, you're connecting with your true self. So you start to feel like that you don't relate to nobody like you usually did. All these people out here is not connected with their self. They just programmed by society. And the more that you connect with yourself, it's the more that you feel like that you don't fit in. I can get way deeper on this, so make sure that y'all follow for more. I love y'all.
A spiritual awakening is individual to every soul. It looks so different for so many people because we're all unique. And as amazing as a spiritual awakening is, there are dark sides. I think it's important that we're able to identify our spiritual awakening and cultivate some sort of understanding for what's happening to us. There have been instances where people have gone through spiritual awakenings, and because they didn't have any type of support system or tools to guide them through this life-changing experience, it took a turn for the worst. And so that's ultimately what this video is about. I want to offer you some insight into what exactly a spiritual awakening is, the good and the bad, the light and the dark. Let's get into it.
This is what happens when you exit the matrix. Pay close attention. The end is astonishing. When you are in the process of awakening, you will realize that everything around you is an illusion in which you have been trapped for many years, something quite strong to assimilate, because you realize that most of society is and will remain trapped. But when you finally leave the matrix, you start to make changes that you would never have made before, like stop watching series, quit harmful habits, stop buying unnecessary things, among many other things you were programmed to do. But you must dare to exit the mental cage, for only then will you achieve liberation. You will feel like you are removing a costume that you never needed to interact with this reality, with the most difficult part being the solitary process that will allow you to reach the point of purification and connection with your higher self.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Amanda Haynes. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're inspired, go ahead and subscribe if you like the vibe and would like to join the tribe. A spiritual awakening is like exiting the matrix. It's like we're these NPCs, these non-playable characters. I'm sure y'all know about that. And when we become sentient beings and wake up to the idea that we're in a game, kind of like that movie Free Guy. I don't know if y'all saw it, it's a good one, but that ultimately like has some strong spiritual undertones, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was mirroring what happens in our reality. Because it's like you go through life believing what you've been told, believing that you're a body, believing that these thoughts, this voice inside of your head is you. And when you experience a spiritual awakening, you wake up to the fact that it's all bullshit. And who knows if it's designed that way or not, but it rocks your world. It completely shakes the ground beneath you, and it can be scary.
Become awakened for real, you go through all the stages of grief. Like, first and foremost, you are gonna deny, because it is quite literally easier to make yourself believe that you are delusional and losing your mind than to believe that everything you've ever believed is a lie. So you just deny it. In denying it, you don't just deny it. You go try to prove to yourself that you are having a mental breakdown. So you go do research to try to disprove the research that made you awaken in the first place. And all that does is take you down a bigger rabbit hole, a deeper rabbit hole that disillusions you even further. And now you're angry because who do I trust? But angry stage doesn't last long, and it doesn't last long for two reasons. The first is that you have this clear understanding that anger is not going to liberate you. And you know this because of the second reason, right? You've come to an awakened stage where you recognize that by existing in this low frequency and this negative energy, I'm just manifesting more low frequency negative energy. I'm just manifesting more anger by being in anger. So you recognize within yourself, like, bro, I have to release this, because regardless of the fact that the veil has been lifted and I understand that we're living in a matrix, it doesn't give me an automatic out of the matrix, right? So then you start bargaining with yourself and you're like, okay, maybe I can accept some of the lies, like at least the ones that make me feel good. But eventually you realize this cannot work. You can't be halfway asleep and halfway awakened. You have to abandon all of the lies and start from the ground up and go within yourself and find out the truth. However, you don't know how you're going to do that because you become terribly depressed. And it's not like a regular depression. Like, it's not the type of depression that like just going outside and getting some sunlight is going to help, because remember, you're awakened. So you're even looking at the sunlight, bitch, can I trust you? But eventually you start to recognize how much power you have. And when you recognize your power, that is what makes you become okay with accepting it. And I'll end with this. Good already won. Remember that. Good already won. The fight is you versus you.
Man, I feel like she covered so much in that video. You versus you, correct? Self-realization, right? Going within. It's so important on our spiritual journey that we go within ourselves. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the rabbit holes of looking into government conspiracies, flat earth, all these external things, because we're like, well, where's the truth then? It's so important for us to know the truth, but the answers aren't on the outside. The answers come from sitting with ourselves in deep meditation and introspection and allowing the answers to come naturally. And they will. We just have to be patient and disciplined in our internal exploration practice, if you will.
It's like you wake up one day and everybody's just gone. Poof. Removed from your life. Cool. About to get some good old sleep. Oh, well, I feel like I've been fighting all night. I miss you. I miss you. Why am I thinking about her all of a sudden? Hello? Hey, I just wanted to let you know I miss you. And you know one thing about me, I get to that bag, I get to that moolah, you hear me? Life is good. Hey, did you lose your job?
How you know that shit, man? Huh?
I don't know.
What's going on with you,
Lucky
brother?
guess.
I feel like people are getting so creative with these videos, and it's so amusing, but so true though. In your spiritual awakening, as you're ascending, not everyone travels with you on that path, and it's not meant for everyone to travel with you. And so naturally, the universe erases people from your experience. And a lot of this is for you to go within, for you to spend time with yourself, developing your spiritual faculties and coming to find answers that you're ultimately seeking. The telepathy, for sure. I've had experiences where I could sense people walking through the door before they actually did. I can sense people, I sense them before they reach out, like immediately before, and very randomly. Being able to see through the bullshit, it's so easy. It's so much easier now because it's like the veil was pulled back and I can see with a different eye. I don't know, maybe it's my third eye. Let's keep going.
Pivotal spiritual awakening in your life? For the longest, I thought there was an acute moment. I thought there was an acute moment when, boom, this is when it started. Now, hindsight, I can see that this was actually a process. It had started the process in 2017 when I first read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. I read that because I was in this time and I wasn't meditating. I wasn't doing nothing. You know what I would do? I would go lay on the floor of my closet in the dark. It's easy to say that now, looking back on it, that it was just a slow evolution. But everything expedited unbelievably quick on January 26th of 2020 when Kobe Bryant died. Like literally everything just went. And within me, it literally it'd be like turning on this light. It turned on everything within me. And then my mind just literally just.
What was it about Kobe's death? What did you experience then?
Kobe, I didn't know Kobe in this life, but everything that I did, I had modeled after him unbeknownst to me. Everything. So like even when I came out with DG Mindset, I came out with the first pillar, the first 10 pillars were the DG mentality. When it happened, I never forget, I was sitting on the top of the stairs and I heard a voice.
Sorry to leave y'all hanging on that, but the video honestly cut off at that point, so I'm not sure what the story was about. I had a very similar spiritual awakening to what he's explaining, and ultimately I was listening to an audiobook, the one that he talks about, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and I was sitting at a red light and something just bubbled up within me and I broke out in a sob, like I had been locked away for a really long time and I finally gotten free. That's the best way I know how to describe it. And after that, it was an immediate shift. Everything changed. My beliefs, everything. I could not explain the shift. And thankfully I had my sister who had already experienced her spiritual awakening to walk me through what I was experiencing and to offer me guidance and answers to the things that I couldn't understand. But also, like DG Mindset said, it wasn't that initial profound awakening. I think that it was a buildup. It was a process because I had been seeking. I had been seeking through spiritual books, spirituality, unbeknownst to myself. I just was following this guidance that I believe lives in all of us, that ultimately is our higher selves, guiding us towards self-realization and our fullest potential. Let's keep going.
One of the most important lessons that I've gotten throughout my spiritual journey is the power of letting go. Our world teaches us to obtain, to get things, get the bag, get the relationship, get the car, the money, the business, get all that, and to keep getting. The ironic part for me is that I was chasing all those things, but the deeper I went into my spiritual journey, I was told to let go of those things. I had to let go of conditioning. I had to let go of thought processes, ideas. I had to let go of people. I had to let go of family. I had to let go of romantic friendships. I had to let go of anything that was an attachment. And the ironic part about that is once I got over the fear of letting that stuff go, that's when I was blessed beyond measure. And my blessing looked different than what you might think it looked like. My blessing was peace, joy, happiness, gratitude, health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. So if you're going through a spiritual journey and you are told to let go, don't think it's strange. That's part of the process. Because how can you obtain something new if you're holding on to something old? Blessings on you.
I've found on this journey that when we're in a type of holding pattern, when we're experiencing cycles of continuously going through the same thing over and over, whether it's the same situation, the same person, the same type of people, the same outcomes, it tends to be because there's something for us that we're not conscious of, that we're meant to be conscious of. It's like our lesson. And once we learn the lesson, we exit the cycle. And I think we ultimately sell ourselves short with our attachments because what the ego can fathom to be the greatest outcome is usually nowhere near as bountiful and abundant and prosperous and beautiful and peaceful as what our higher self knows to be true. If we can let go of our egoic programming on what we believe is the best outcome, I think that we come to find that the experience is so much more fulfilling. There's so much letting go. And I think that there's so much fear with letting go because we're afraid that we're going to get duped. We're afraid that if we let go of control, if we let go of outcomes, that we are not going to be satisfied with what we're presented with. And I think that that is the biggest misconception and limiting belief that we're accustomed to holding on to as a society, both unawakened and conscious. We want to be in control because we are afraid of what will happen if we're not. Let's keep it moving.
The scariest part of awakening is that you can no longer be the old you. You can no longer unsee what you have seen. And many times what happens is things have to change. People in your relationships have to change. Your career and your work life has to change. The things that you find passion in have to change. Why? Because awakening is a spiritual awakening. Awakening is a process of you no longer being this third dimension version of you. And that gets scary. It gets scary because the entire life that you have constructed was constructed from the old you, the fear-based you, the scared you. I'm here to encourage you if you're going through this right now, and let you know that you have the courage within you to overcome any of the obstacles and challenges that you're facing when it comes to your awakening journey. And the more and more that you heal, the more and more that you release, and the more and more that you heal, and the more and more that you release the control of the mind and the ego, the more and more that you allow yourself to tap into your heart, your intuition, your true power. And what I can promise you is this: life gets 100 times more abundant, 100 times easier, and 100 times more in flow when you have awakened. Once you face that fear, once you let go of what no longer serves you, and once you step into the new you and your new life.
Change is so uncomfortable. Think about like a baby coming through the canal, like it's being squished and there's so much pressure, and then it comes out, it has to come out, and then it grows into a human, but it couldn't grow into that human in the belly. So change is very much uncomfortable. Our biggest asset in this life is to make friends with change, because change is the only constant. Everything is always changing. Our avatars age, our parents die. That will probably be a whole nother video. We go through these cycles, the seasons change, nothing stays the same. And anything that we attach to that we believe is going to stay the same keeps us stagnant and keeps us stuck. But ultimately, it seems like the theme of spiritual awakenings is letting go. And it's mainly letting go of the ego, which is the tightest grip on our reality. It's who we think we are. It's our identity. It's who am I without this character? Who am I in a social situation without this character, without these rules that I've created in my mind for how to be? And I think that's why it's so important for self-isolation and self-compassion, because in every situation, we're not going to show up like our higher selves. We're going to be challenged, and that's the point. The challenge is the lesson, and we have many lessons to learn in this lifetime. And every lesson that we meet in the 3D reality is just showing us parts of ourselves that still need to be released. So if I'm in a social situation and some fear comes up, this fear is here to help me. It's here to help me see what's happening inside, what I'm identifying with, what I'm refusing to let go of. What does it want me to see? What's the opportunity here? What's the bigger picture here? Let's keep going. It's so accurate. It's so accurate. If you've been through a spiritual awakening, you know what he's talking about. It's a dismantling. It's a dismantling of what you have been conditioned to believe your entire life. And depending on your biological age, it can be very disrupting. There's a scene in The Matrix that talks about how they don't wake up people after a certain age because of how earth-shattering it is. And could you imagine waking up at 85 when you have lived most of your life to come to find that it's not real? All that you've based your life on isn't real. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but that would be hella cruel. Hella cruel. But yeah, this meme is so on point, and it's actually really funny. And maybe it's funny because it's true. I've been there. It was like that for me.
When you go through your first spiritual awakening, be prepared to experience these 3 heartbreaks. This is the ego's first desire, to find fulfillment in the world outside of it by winning positive outcomes like pleasure, wealth, and fame. And so during a spiritual awakening, you have to die to this delusion and come to the realization that all happiness is found within and never from without. Number 2, the heartbreak that you are not special. The ego wants to be special in any way possible. It wants to be more talented, more beautiful, more worthy of love in some way. But God created all beings equal, and so nobody is special. You are a unique expression of the Creator, and that's what makes you lovable. And number 3, the heartbreak that you are not a victim. The ego finds great pleasure in blaming its problems on everything else, including God and the universe. You have created and attracted every negative experience you've ever had based upon the negative karma, the negative thoughts you think, and the pessimistic attitude that you carry towards life. But when you realize this, you begin to see just how powerful you are. And so the first step to finding real happiness and fulfillment is accepting full responsibility for every experience that you draw to yourself.
I love Aaron Apke. I would say that he nailed it when he described what it is we experience in a spiritual awakening as heartbreak. It really is similar to the loss of a loved one. It mimics that pain and that longing. Let's keep going.
Being spiritual is not about using crystals, reading tarot, or using sage. New Age spirituality has almost forgotten that spiritual awakenings are not all love and light. In fact, they can be quite terrifying and challenging to many. Spirituality is all about evolution, so that means when you spiritually awaken, all this dark stuff that you were hiding will come to the surface so you can work on it. It also means that you will lose friends that are not aligned with your highest good. Spirituality is all about reconnecting with your divinity, and in order to do so, your current identity must dismantle in front of your eyes. Your life plans may radically change and make you feel unstable because everything you were working on no longer matters to you. Real spirituality doesn't come from anything outside of yourself. It comes from you learning how to consistently dismantle stories you've told yourself about who you are. That way you can tap into who you really are, which is source.
I like how she said continuously dismantle who you think you are. And I think that's ultimately the challenges that we run into in this experience. When we come across a trigger or an obstacle, it's so important for us to introspect on who's experiencing this suffering or this discomfort, who is experiencing these expectations, who is experiencing the loss. And this is a continual process. You will be challenged every day in some way with dismantling the egoic system. But once it's dismantled, what's on the other side of that is beyond explanation. Let's keep going.
You probably didn't know, but there's a dark side that comes with a spiritual awakening. True, it can be a powerful transformative experience that brings about a lot of positive change in your life. But it also has a darker side that can be quite challenging and difficult for many to navigate. I'm going to share with you 5 of the most common symptoms associated with the darker side of the spiritual awakening. Number 1, increased sensitivity. As you become awakened to your true self, you're likely to become hypersensitive to all of the energies around you. This is often accompanied with physical and mental symptoms like depression, anxiety, insomnia, and just pure exhaustion. Number 2 is loss of identity. A spiritual awakening can lead to the realization that many of the beliefs and values that you held so dearly were often adopted without critical thought or reflection. As a result, you might feel like you don't even know who you are anymore, and might even be experiencing existential crisis. Number 3, disruption or even loss of your relationships. After awakening, you may realize that you no longer resonate with the people or relationships that you previously held dear. And that distance that's created often leads to feelings of isolation and loneliness. Number 4, facing your shadow side. This is more of a blessing than a curse, trust me. The entire process of a spiritual awakening can bring to light unhealthy patterns, suppressed emotions, and even past traumas. This can be, and often is, a very painful process to go through, but it is necessary. Number 5, spiritual bypassing. This is something a lot of people don't really want to talk about. Essentially, this is when you use spirituality as a means of escaping or avoiding the unpleasant realities of life. You may be using spirituality as a way of avoiding the necessary emotional and psychological work that needs to be done. This can lead to an even greater disconnection from self and from everyone around you. While the spiritual awakening process can be a deeply transformative experience, it is important to understand and navigate its darker aspects. It is essential to have a support system and a safe space to process emotions. You may find it helpful to seek guidance from a trusted spiritual teacher, a counselor, or even a therapist who can help guide you and support you throughout the journey.
It's interesting because when we talk about a spiritual awakening, I don't know if necessarily we talk about it being good or bad, but when people mention the dark side of a spiritual awakening, you have to really ask yourself, who is experiencing the darkness? And this isn't a place that you fall into at first, because you're first just rationalizing the fact that everything you believe to be true is not. And you haven't necessarily stepped into the side of these thoughts and feelings and emotions that I have are not who I am. But later on down the line, once you have gained a little more ground and solitude in your journey, you come to realize that the one who is experiencing the light and the dark is not you. And so you're able to detach from the discomforts that you experience on your spiritual awakening, such as isolation, loneliness, depression, all of the things that he mentioned, because you're not attaching to those things. You're not attaching your identity to that experience. You're just realizing that it's just an experiencing that you're witnessing, as unpleasant as some of it is. So that's pretty much all I got for y'all today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Definitely drop a comment below. I would love to hear what your spiritual awakening was like and how you maneuvered through it and really where you are now. Go ahead and, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who may be going through their own spiritual awakening at the moment. We all need the support and the knowledge. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.